Jia Kim stood at the entrance of Celestial Academy, her plain black backpack clutched tightly against her chest. Unlike the other students who floated, glided, or hovered their way into the massive crystal building, Jia simply walked. She was the only human in sight. "Remember to blend in," she whispered to herself, taking a deep breath. The academy hallways shimmered with light that seemed to come from nowhere. Aliens of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved between classes. Some had 4 arms, others had skin that changed color, and a few even floated without touching the ground. Next to them, Jia looked very plain with her simple school uniform and black hair tied back in a neat ponytail. "That must be the new human," whispered a tall blue student with glowing dots across his face. His friend, a girl with silver skin that reflected light like a mirror, looked at Jia and made a face. "I heard their brains are so small they can't even understand basic quantum physics," the silver girl said loudly enough for Jia to hear. Jia kept her eyes down and walked faster. The Earth government had only recently joined the Galactic Alliance. Humans were the newest and least advanced members. Most aliens saw them as stupid and weak. Her first class was Advanced Spatial Mathematics. Jia found an empty seat at the back of the room. As she sat down, the students nearby moved their chairs away slightly. "Welcome, students," said the teacher, Mr. Yun, who looked almost human except for his golden eyes with star-shaped pupils. "Today we have a new student joining us. This is Jia Kim from Earth." All eyes turned to look at her. Jia gave a small nod and tried to smile. "I hope you'll all make her feel welcome," Mr. Yun continued. "Remember that diversity makes our galaxy stronger." From the front row, a boy with light blue skin and white hair turned to look at her. His name tag read Dai. His perfect features were set in a cold smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sir," Dad said, raising his hand, "will we be slowing down the class to accommodate our new classmate? I hear humans struggle with simple trans-dimensional equations." Several students laughed. Mr. Yun frowned. "That won't be necessary, Da. I'm sure Jia will keep up just fine." When Mr. Yun turned to write on the floating holographic board, Da looked back at Jia again. This time, he didn't try to hide his disgust. During lunch, Jia sat alone. The cafeteria served food from 100 different worlds, but she chose something that looked close to rice and vegetables. As she ate quietly, she noticed Dai and his friends at a table nearby, sometimes looking at her and laughing. A group of them walked past her table. One girl with purple skin and eyes that blinked sideways accidentally bumped Jia's tray, spilling her drink. "Oops," said the purple girl named Huma with fake concern. "Sorry. Human reflexes are so slow, aren't they?" Jia didn't respond. She simply wiped up the spill with her napkin. "Doesn't it talk?" asked another student. "Maybe it doesn't understand complex language," Daz suggested, smirking. "Try using smaller words." More laughter followed as they walked away. In her next class, practical physics, students had to demonstrate their understanding of gravity manipulation. Each student easily lifted metal balls and spun them in complex patterns using handheld devices. When it was Jia's turn, her hands moved slowly, as if unsure. The metal ball wobbled and nearly fell several times. "Well, that's a start," said the teacher kindly. "Keep practicing." As Jia returned to her seat, she heard whispers and snickers. Only one student, a quiet boy named Hoon with dark eyes that seemed to see everything, watched her with curiosity instead of mockery. As their eyes met briefly, he tilted his head slightly, as if puzzled by something he saw. Back in her small dormitory room that evening, Jia finally relaxed. She sat cross-legged on her bed and pulled out a small device from a hidden pocket in her jacket. With quick, confident movements that would have shocked her classmates, she entered a complex sequence of commands. A message appeared. "Secure connection estabilized." Jia typed. "First day complete. Cover maintained." The reply came seconds later. "Good. Remember why you're there. Stay safe, calculator. Jia turned off the device and hit it again, her face no longer showing the uncertainty and meekness she had displayed all day. For a moment, her eyes held a sharp intelligence that had once brought an empire to its knees. Jia woke before her alarm, her mind already racing with memories. In her dreams, she had been 12 again, sitting in a small room filled with screens and important people in military uniforms. "It's just a simple flaw in their math," her younger self had said, pointing to complex equations that glowed in the air. "See how they built their whole defense system on this one wrong idea." Jia shook her head, pushing away the memories. That was 4 years ago, before everything changed, before she became famous and then had to disappear. She got ready for her second day at Celestial Academy. As she brushed her hair, a news alert flashed on her room's wall screen. "Unrest continues in the former domain territories," said a green-skinned reporter. "Some say domain loyalists are regrouping. The Alliance has increased patrols in the neutral zone." Jia turned off the screen quickly. She didn't need reminders of what she had done, of the empire she had helped bring down. In her morning class, Advanced Technology Studies, the teacher divided students into pairs for a simple project. Jia was paired with Hoon, the quiet boy who had watched her yesterday. "You're not what you seem," Hoon said softly as they began working on their assignment to build a small anti-gravity device. Jia's hands froze for a second. "What do you mean?" "Your hands," he said. "They move wrong. You pretend to be clumsy, but sometimes you forget. For a moment, your fingers move too perfectly." Jia laughed nervously. "I think you're seeing things." Hoon didn't smile. "My people are known for seeing what others miss. You're hiding something." Before Jia could answer, Dai walked by their table. "How's the human doing, Hoon? Is she slowing you down?" Dai asked loudly. "We're fine," Hoon said, his voice flat. Dai picked up their half-finished project. "This looks simple enough even for a human to understand." "Please put that down," Jia said quietly. "Oh, it speaks." Dai laughed. "I was starting to think humans couldn't talk and think at the same time." He placed the device back on the table roughly. One of the delicate parts broke off. "Oops," he said with a fake apology. "Human technology is so fragile." After Dai walked away, Jia sighed and reached for the broken piece. Without thinking, her fingers moved quickly and precisely, fixing the break in seconds with perfect movements. She looked up to find Hoon watching her with wide eyes. "Like I said," he whispered, "not what you seem." During lunch, Jia sat alone again, but this time she noticed more students watching her. News about the domain unrest was playing on screens throughout the cafeteria. "The domain empire once controlled 50 star systems," said the news reporter. 4 years ago, their entire fleet was disabled by a mysterious weakness in their technology. Some say a single human discovered the flaw. "A human?" Shumi laughed from a nearby table. "As if any human could be smart enough to bring down the domain empire." Her friends laughed with her. Jia looked down at her food, trying to be invisible. Later that day, in physical training class, the students practiced moving in different gravity levels. Most alien students adjusted easily, their bodies naturally adapting to the changing environment. When it was Jia's turn, she deliberately stumbled in the low-gravity section. "Humans have the worst balance," Da commented from the sidelines. "They evolved on only one planet with only one gravity." The teacher, Mr. Jin, frowned at Da. "Everyone struggles at first, Da. Remember your first day. You floated upside down for an hour." Some students laughed, and Da's face darkened with anger. In the high-gravity section, Jia pretended to struggle even more, but her body actually felt fine. Years of special training had prepared her for much worse. As class ended, Jia noticed a tall woman with a stern face watching from the doorway. The woman wore the uniform of a high-ranking academy official. "Who's that?" Jia asked a nearby student. "Professor Tai," the student whispered. "She teaches advanced military strategy to senior students. She used to be an alliance commander during the domain war." When Jia looked again, Professor Ta was staring directly at her with narrow, suspicious eyes. For a moment, Jia felt like the professor could see right through her disguise. That night in her room, Jia sent another encrypted message. "Someone may recognize me. A former military commander now teaching here." The reply came quickly. "Keep your cover. Too much at stake. Domain loyalists would kill for revenge against the calculator." Jia turned off her device and looked out her window at the strange stars of this alien world. For a moment, she allowed herself to remember the day when her simple discovery had changed the galaxy forever. The day when a 12-year-old girl had found the math error that brought down an empire. "Today, we begin a special group project," announced Mr. Yun to the class. "You will study a major galactic conflict and present your findings next week." Jia's heart beat faster as Mr. Yun began assigning teams. She hoped to work with Hoon, the only student who had shown her any kindness. "Team 3 will be Da, Sumin, Hoon, and Jia," said Mr. Yun. "Your topic is the domain war." Jia froze. Of all the conflicts in galactic history, she had to be assigned the one she helped end. Day groaned loudly. "Sir, must we work with the human? She'll only slow us down." "This is not open for discussion, Da," Mr. Yun said firmly. "Now, everyone move to sit with your teams." Reluctantly, Jia joined her group. Da and Sumi looked unhappy. Hoon simply nodded at her. "Let's just split the work," Sumi said. "I'll cover the domain's rise to power. Da can explain their military technology. Hoon can handle the final battle and the empire's fall." "What about me?" Jia asked quietly. Da laughed. "You can make our presentation look nice. Can humans at least do simple art?" Jia bit her lip and nodded. It was better this way. The less she had to say about the domain war, the safer her secret would be. "I'm curious about how they fell," said Hoon, looking at Jia. "A mighty empire defeated because of one small mistake in their shield mathematics. And a human found that mistake, didn't they?" "A lucky guess," Day said dismissively. "The human probably had help from more advanced species." Jia stared at her tablet, saying nothing. She remembered the room full of Alliance scientists who had worked for years trying to find a weakness in domain defenses. She remembered how they had laughed when she, a 12-year-old human girl, had asked to look at the domain shield equations. They had stopped laughing when she found the error in just 2 hours. "We should meet after classes to work on this," Shumi said. "The library has good resources on the domain war." That afternoon, the 4 students sat at a large table in the school library. Holograms showing the history of the domain empire floated above their table. The domains controlled 50 star systems, Da read from his tablet. Their shield technology was thought to be unbeatable. Until it wasn't, Hoon added, glancing at Jia. On the hologram, images showed massive domain warships suddenly losing power, their shields failing as Alliance forces moved in. "It says here that the domain shields had a mathematical flaw," Sumi read. "When attacked with the right frequency, the shields would collapse. And a human found that weakness," Hoon said. "A young human." "That's just Alliance propaganda," Da scoffed. "Humans trying to make themselves seem important." A tall figure approached their table. It was Professor Ta, the stern-faced woman Jia had seen watching her. "An interesting topic," Professor Ta said, her eyes fixed on Jia. "The domain war changed everything." "Were you there, Professor?" Shumi asked with admiration. "I heard you were an Alliance commander." "I was," Professor Ta nodded. "I saw their shields fail. A sight I'll never forget." Her gaze never left Jia's face. "Some say the human who found the flaw was just a child, a girl with an unusual mind for mathematics." Jia looked down at her tablet, her face carefully blank. "What happened to her?" Hoon asked. "She disappeared," Professor Ta said, "for her own safety. The remaining domain loyalists would have killed her for revenge." The professor picked up Jia's tablet, looking at her notes. "You have neat handwriting," she commented. "Very precise." When Professor Ta finally walked away, Jia let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "She's intense," Sumi whispered. "She fought the domains," Daz said with respect. "Of course she's intense." As they continued working, news played on a screen in the corner of the library. The reporter looked worried. "Domain loyalist activity has increased across 3 sectors," the reporter said. Alliance officials warned that former domain military leaders may be reuniting their forces. Hoon noticed Jia watching the news. "Scary, isn't it?" he said softly. "What if they come back?" Jia nodded slightly. "Very scary." Later, as Jia walked back to her room alone, she felt someone watching her. She turned quickly but saw only shadows. Still, she hurried her steps. Inside her room, she sent an urgent message. "Professor here knows who I am. Domain news increasing. Not safe." The reply came back. "Stay calm. Act normal. Help is coming soon." The school announcement system chimed during breakfast the next morning. The headmaster's voice echoed through the cafeteria. "Students, we have the honor of welcoming Admiral G to our academy today. He will give a special lecture on Alliance security. All classes after lunch are canceled so everyone can attend." Excited whispers spread through the room. Admiral G was famous for leading key battles against the Domain Empire. "I can't believe Admiral G is coming here," Chuma said from the table next to Jaz. "My parents say he's the greatest military mind in the Alliance. I heard he worked directly with the human who found the domain weakness," another student added. Jia kept her head down, eating quietly. She knew Admiral G very well. He had been her protector and teacher for years after the Domain War. If he was coming to the academy, something serious was happening. Later that day, all students gathered in the main hall. Admiral Jai stood on the stage, tall and impressive in his blue Alliance uniform. His gray hair was cut short, and his face showed the lines of someone who had seen many battles. His eyes scanned the crowd and paused briefly when he saw Jia. His expression didn't change, but Jia knew he had recognized her. "The galaxy is entering a difficult time," Admiral Jia began. "Domain loyalists are regrouping. They dream of restoring their fallen empire. The Alliance must be ready." He spoke about security measures and the importance of reporting suspicious activity. Then he opened the floor for questions. Day raised his hand. "Admiral, is it true that a human child found the flaw in domain shields?" "That seems hard to believe." Several students laughed. Jia stared at her hands. Admiral G's face became serious. "Never underestimate anyone based on their species or age. The person who discovered the domain weakness had a unique way of seeing mathematics. That's all that mattered." After the lecture, students lined up to meet the Admiral. When Jia's turn came, he shook her hand formally, as if they were strangers. "Good to meet you, young human," he said loudly enough for others to hear. Then he added in a whisper, "My office, after dinner. Use the service entrance." That evening, Jia slipped away from her dormitory. She took empty hallways to the guest wing where Admiral G was staying. A guard nodded at her and opened a side door. Admiral G was waiting inside. As soon as the door closed, his formal manner disappeared. "Jia," he said warmly, "you've grown taller." "It's good to see you, Admiral." Jia smiled. "But why are you really here? Is it about the domain loyalists?" The Admiral's face grew serious. "Yes, they're organizing faster than we expected. And worse, they know someone from Earth was responsible for their defeat. They're hunting for the calculator." "Do they know I'm here?" Jia asked. "Not yet," Admiral G said. "But we can't rule out that they have spies in the academy. Professor Tai reports that you've maintained your cover well, but she fears someone is getting suspicious." "Professor Tai is working with you." Jia was surprised. "She's been watching over you since you arrived," the Admiral explained. "One of our best agents." Admiral J handed Jia a small device. "Keep this with you. If you're in danger, press this button. Help will come immediately." What about the other students? Jia asked. If domain agents attack the school, your safety is the priority, Admiral Jia interrupted. You're too valuable to risk. Jia frowned. I won't let others get hurt because of me. The Admiral sighed. Still stubborn, just like when you were 12. His expression softened. Be careful, Jia. The domains want revenge. If they find the calculator. I know, Jia said quietly. Back in her room, Jia checked her belongings and noticed something wrong. Her things had been moved slightly, not enough for most people to notice. But Jia's trained eye caught the difference. Someone had searched her room. She quickly checked her hidden compartments. Her secret communication device was still safe, but this was a warning. Someone was getting close to her secret. As she prepared for bed, her tablet showed a news alert. Domain terrorist attack on Alliance outpost. 3 dead. Message left. The calculator will be found. Jia turned off the light and sat in the darkness, the weight of her past pressing down on her shoulders once again. Security at Celestial Academy changed overnight. Alliance guards now stood at every entrance. Students needed special passes to move between buildings. Everyone noticed the difference. Did you see all the guards? Shumi asked during morning class. Something big must be happening. My father says domain loyalists have attacked 3 Alliance bases this week, Day said importantly. They're getting bolder. The teacher called for quiet, but Jia could feel the nervous energy in the room. Students kept looking out the windows at the guards patrolling the grounds. Later that day, Jia's class went to the flight simulator room. Each student would practice piloting a small ship through an asteroid field. This exercise tests your spatial awareness and quick thinking, explained the instructor. Each of you will have 3 minutes in the simulator. Most alien students did well. Their species had been space travelers for centuries. Dag got the highest score so far, completing the course with only 2 minor hits. Beat that, he said smugly to Jia as he left the simulator. When it was Jia's turn, she reminded herself to make mistakes. She needed to appear average. But as soon as she sat in the pilot's seat, something felt wrong. The simulator's program had changed. This wasn't the simple asteroid field the others had faced. Wait, there's a problem, she started to say. The instructor looked confused. What do you mean? The simulation started before she could explain. Jia saw not just asteroids but attack drones firing at her ship. This was a combat simulation, not a navigation exercise. Her training took over. Without thinking, Jia's hands moved across the controls with perfect precision. She rolled the ship between asteroids while returning fire at the drones. Her movements were quick and sure, nothing like the clumsy human her classmates thought they knew. When the simulation ended, Jia realized her mistake. The room was completely silent. Every student stared at her in shock. The simulator screen showed her score. Perfect. No hits, all enemies destroyed, in record time. How did you do that? The instructor finally asked. That wasn't even the right program. Jia's mind raced for an explanation. I play a lot of games back on Earth. Just got lucky, I guess. No one looked convinced, especially not Da, whose eyes had narrowed with suspicion. During lunch, Jia sat alone as usual, but now she felt many eyes watching her. Her perfect simulator run had raised questions she couldn't answer. Hoon appeared beside her table. Mind if I sit? When she nodded, he placed a small device on the table between them. This blocks listening devices, he explained quietly. We can talk freely. What do you want? Jia asked cautiously. Hoon pulled out a tablet and showed her an old news article. The headline read, Domain Empire defeated by mathematical discovery. The image showed a group of Alliance officers. In the background, barely visible, was a young girl whose face had been blurred. The calculator, Hoon said softly. That's what they called the person who found the flaw in domain shields, a mathematical genius who disappeared after the war. Jia kept her face neutral. Why are you showing me this? My people have good memories, Hoon continued. I recognized your movements in the simulator today. They matched footage of an Alliance training exercise from 4 years ago. He paused. You're her, aren't you? The calculator. Before Gia could respond, the Academy alarm system blared to life. Red lights flashed in the cafeteria. All students returned to dormitories immediately, announced the headmaster's voice. This is not a drill. Security Protocol Alpha is now in effect. Students jumped up in panic. Teachers appeared at the doors, directing traffic. What's happening? Jia asked a passing teacher. Security breach, the teacher said quickly. We've received information that domain agents may have infiltrated the academy. Go to your room and lock the door. As students rushed in different directions, Jia lost sight of Hoon. She made her way toward her dormitory, but stopped when she saw Professor Ta waving at her from a side hallway. This way, Professor Ta called urgently. Admiral G wants you moved to a secure location. Jia hurried toward her, but halfway there, she froze. Through a window, she saw Academy guards being disarmed by people in maintenance uniforms. The infiltration had already begun. Jia ducked into an empty classroom as the fake maintenance workers moved past. Her heart pounded in her chest. The infiltration was worse than she had feared. Need to warn someone, she whispered to herself. She pulled out her communication device, but there was no signal. All communications were being blocked. The door behind her opened suddenly. Jia spun around, ready to fight. There you are. It was Dai and Sume. Everyone's supposed to go to their rooms. You don't understand, Jia said urgently. The academy has been infiltrated. Those aren't real maintenance workers out there. They're domain agents. Dai laughed. Right. And how would you know that? I just know. Okay. Jia snapped. We need to find a way to alert Admiral G. Why would we believe you? Shumi asked, crossing her arms. You've been acting strange since you got here. And that simulator test today. No beginner gets a perfect score. Jia looked between them, frustrated. There was no time to argue. Fine, don't believe me, she said, moving toward the door. But I'm going to find help. Dai blocked her path. Not until you explain what's really going on. Who are you really? A voice came from behind them. She's the human who destroyed the domain empire. They all turned to see Professor Ta standing in the doorway. But something was wrong. She was holding a weapon that Jia recognized immediately. A domain pulse gun. Professor? Shumi asked in confusion. Step away from her, Professor Ta ordered, pointing the gun at the students. The human comes with me. Jia's mind raced. You're not Alliance, she said quietly. Your domain. Professor Ta smiled coldly. Very good, calculator. Yes, I served the domain empire before its fall, before a human child destroyed everything we built. Dai and Sume looked between Jia and the professor in confusion. What is she talking about? Dai asked Jia. Why did she call you calculator? Because that's what the Alliance called her, Professor Ta answered. The human girl with the special mind for numbers. The one who found the flaw in our shield equations. She stepped closer, her gun still raised. Do you know how many of my people died when our shields failed? Millions. All because of her. Sume gasped, her eyes wide as she looked at Jia. You? You're the one who defeated the domain empire. Not now, Sume, Jia said, her eyes never leaving Professor Ta. To the professor she asked, how many domain agents are in the school? Enough, Professor Ta replied. The academy is already under our control. The real Professor Ta has been our prisoner for months. What do you want? Jia asked, though she already knew the answer. Justice, the fake Professor Ta said simply. The domain will rise again. And this time, we'll make sure no human can stop us. Jia noticed a small vent near the floor, if she could reach it. You made one mistake, Jia said, trying to buy time. The real Professor Ta would have known I was here. If you've had her prisoner for months, how did you know to look for me at this academy? The fake professor hesitated, confused by the question. In that moment of distraction, Jia kicked over a desk. As it crashed to the floor, she yelled to Dai and Sume, "Run." The three students bolted in different directions. The fake Professor Ta fired her weapon, missing Jia by inches. The pulse hit a wall, leaving a smoking hole. Jia slid across the floor and reached the vent. With practiced movements, she removed the cover and pushed herself inside. After her, she heard the fake professor yell. Heavy footsteps pounded across the room. Crawling through the ventilation system, Jia tried to think. The domains had taken over the academy. Admiral G might already be captured. She needed help. Up ahead, she heard movement in the vents. Someone else was crawling toward her. Jia prepared to fight, but then relaxed when she saw who it was. "Hoon," she whispered. "Hello, calculator," he replied softly. "I think it's time we work together, don't you?" "How did you find me?" Jia whispered to Hoon in the dark ventilation shaft. "I've been mapping these vents since my first day here," Hoon replied. "Old habit. My people are always prepared." A loud bang echoed through the metal tunnels. Someone was hitting the vents, trying to find them. "We need to move," Hoon said. "Follow me." They crawled quickly through the narrow space until they reached another vent opening. Hoon peered through the slats. "Clear," he whispered, removing the cover. They dropped down into an empty laboratory. "The domain agents are everywhere," Hoon said. "They're gathering students and teachers in the main hall." "We need to find Admiral G," Jia said. "He'll know what to do." The door burst open. Dai and Sumi rushed in, then quickly closed the door behind them. "There you are," Sumi gasped, out of breath. "We've been looking everywhere." Dai stared at Jia with new eyes. "Is it true? Are you really the calculator?" Jia hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell us?" Sumi asked. "Would you have believed me?" Jia replied. "You all thought humans were too stupid to tie their own shoes." Dai looked away, embarrassed. "We were wrong." "There's no time for this," Hoon interrupted. "The school is under domain control. We need a plan. First, we need to understand what they want," Jia said. "They could have killed me already, but they haven't." "Why?" "They called you calculator," Sumi said. "Maybe they need you to calculate something." Jia's eyes widened. "Of course. They don't just want revenge. They need me to help them fix their shield technology." A school-wide announcement interrupted them. The fake Professor Ta's voice echoed through the speakers. "Attention all students and staff. We have control of your academy. Remain calm and follow instructions. We are looking for one student in particular, the human girl, Jia Kim. If she surrenders herself, no one will be harmed. If she does not come forward within 1 hour, we will execute one hostage every 30 minutes, starting with Admiral G." The announcement ended. The 4 students looked at each other in shock. "I have to turn myself in," Jia said immediately. "No," Dag grabbed her arm. "They'll kill you." "They'll kill everyone anyway," Jia replied. "Once they get what they want from me, they'll destroy the academy to eliminate witnesses." "So what do we do?" Sumi asked, her voice shaking. Jia thought for a moment. "I need to get to the school's main computer lab. If I can access their systems, I might be able to send a distress signal to the Alliance." "The computer lab is on the other side of the building," Hoon said. "We have to get past at least a dozen domain agents. Then we'll need a distraction," Jia said, looking at her former bullies with new determination. 20 minutes later, Day ran down a hallway, shouting at the top of his lungs. "I found her. The human is trying to escape through the east wing." 2 domain agents immediately chased after him. When they turned the corner, Sumi tripped them with a wire stretched across the floor. Hoon appeared from a closet and quickly tied them up. Meanwhile, Jia slipped into the computer lab. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing systems that should have been impossible for a student to reach. Come on, she muttered. The door opened behind her. Jia spun around, expecting another domain agent. Instead, she saw Admiral G, his uniform torn and bloodied. "Admiral," she gasped, "you're alive." "Barely," he grimaced, clutching his side. "The domain forces ambushed us. I've been hiding, trying to find a way to contact Alliance headquarters." "That's what I'm doing now," Jia said, turning back to the computer. The Admiral moved closer, looking over her shoulder. "Clever girl. Always one step ahead." Something in his voice made Jia pause. It didn't sound quite right. Slowly, she reached for the small device in her pocket, the one the real Admiral J had given her. "Strange," she said carefully. "I thought you'd be more worried about the students." "The students are fine," the Admiral said dismissively. "Your safety is the priority, remember." Jia pressed a hidden button on her device, then turned to face the man. "The real Admiral G would never say that. He knows I'd never put myself before others." "Who are you?" The fake Admiral G smiled coldly. "Smart girl. Too smart for your own good." His face began to shift and change, the disguise melting away to reveal a domain commander. "Now," he said, "you will help us rebuild our empire, calculator, or watch your friends die one by one." The domain commander stepped closer to Jia, his face twisted with hate. "4 years I'd hunted for you, the human child who destroyed everything." Jia backed away until she hit the wall. "Killing me won't fix your shields." "We don't need to kill you," the commander smiled. "We need your mind. You will help us rebuild our technology, make it stronger. Then you can watch as we retake our empire." Jia's mind raced. She needed time. The emergency signal was still sending, but help would take hours to arrive. "I'll need access to your shield equations," she said, trying to sound defeated. The commander laughed. "Good try. You'll get nothing until you prove your cooperation. Come with me to the main hall. Your classmates are waiting." He grabbed Jia's arm roughly and pushed her toward the door. As they entered the hallway, a blue blur tackled the commander from behind. It was Da. He fought with strength Jia hadn't expected, landing several solid punches before the commander threw him against the wall. "Run," Da shouted to Jia. The commander pulled out his weapon, aiming at Da. Without thinking, Jia launched herself forward, knocking the gun aside. The shot hit the ceiling instead. Suddenly, Shumi appeared from around the corner. She slid across the floor and swept the commander's legs out from under him. He fell hard, losing his grip on the weapon. Hoon darted in, grabbed the gun, and pointed it at the commander. "Don't move," Hoon said calmly. The commander glared at them. "You're just children. You have no idea what forces you're dealing with." "We're not just children," Jia said, stepping forward. "We're students of Celestial Academy. And apparently, that means something." She looked at her former bullies with new respect. They had risked their lives to save her. "We need to find the real Admiral G," Jia said. "If they've got a fake of him, the real one must be imprisoned somewhere." "The maintenance tunnels," Hoon suggested. "That's where I'd keep important prisoners." They tied up the domain commander and locked him in a storage closet. Then, using Hoon's knowledge of the school's hidden passages, they made their way toward the maintenance section. As they moved through the school, Day turned to Jia. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "The things I said about humans, about you, I was wrong." "We all were," Sumi added. "We thought we were so advanced, but you were the one who saved the galaxy." Jia shook her head. "I just found a math error. That's all." "That's not all," Hoon said. "You had the courage to speak up when no one would listen. That's rare in any species." They reached the maintenance tunnels and found them guarded by 2 domain agents. The students hid behind some large pipes. "How do we get past them?" Shuma whispered. "I have an idea," Jia said. She pointed to some control panels nearby. Those regulate the school's atmosphere. If I can trigger the emergency systems. She explained her plan quickly. The others nodded. Moments later, warning lights flashed as oxygen levels in that section suddenly appeared to drop. The guards looked at each other in panic. "Check the life support systems," one yelled to the other. They both ran toward the control room. The students quickly slipped into the maintenance tunnels. After searching several rooms, they found a locked door with 2 more guards. "That must be it," Dai whispered. "We need another distraction," Jia said. "I'll handle this," Hoon said. He pulled out a small device from his pocket. "My people are good at creating illusions." He pressed a button. Suddenly, alarms blared from the opposite direction. The guards hesitated, then ran to check. The students rushed to the door. It had an electronic lock. "Can you open it?" Shuni asked Jia. Jia studied the lock. "It's domain technology. I know their systems." Her fingers moved across the keypad in a complex pattern. The door clicked open. Inside, they found Admiral G and Professor Ta. The real ones, tied to chairs. They looked beaten but alive. As Jia untied the Admiral, he looked at her with relief. "You found us. Good work." "Not just me," Jia said, gesturing to her classmates. "We worked together." The Admiral looked surprised to see Dai and Sumi helping. "I thought they were your tormentors." "They were," Jia smiled slightly. "Now they're my friends." A loud explosion shook the building. "What was that?" Shuni asked in alarm. The real Professor Ta stood up shakily. "The domain forces must have realized their commander is missing. They're getting desperate." Admiral G's face darkened. "They'll destroy the academy rather than let us escape. We need a plan." Everyone turned to look at Jia. "I think I have one," she said. "But it's risky, and I'll need everyone's help." "The domain ships have surrounded the academy," Admiral Jai explained, pointing at a small screen he had activated. "Their forces inside have taken most students to the main hall as hostages." Another explosion rocked the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. "What's your plan, Jia?" Professor Tai asked, her face serious but respectful. Jia looked at the people around her, her former bullies now standing by her side, the real Admiral and Professor who believed in her. She took a deep breath. "The domain forces are using the school's power core to send signals to their ships," she explained. "But we can use that same power core against them." "How?" Dai asked. 4 years ago, I found a flaw in their shield equations," Jia said. "A specific energy frequency that makes their technology fail. If we can generate that same frequency using the Academy's power core, we can disable all domain technology inside the school." "Would that work on their weapons?" Shuni asked hopefully. "Yes," Jia nodded. "But it's not simple. We need to reach the main power core, and it's probably heavily guarded. And we'd need to adjust it without shutting down life support for the entire academy," Professor Tai added. "I can handle the technical part," Jia said, "but we need a way to get past their guards." Hoon smiled slightly. "I think I can help with that. My people are shapeshifters." Everyone looked at him in surprise. "What?" Dai asked. "You never told us that." "You never asked," Hoon replied calmly. "I can take the form of the domain commander for a short time, enough to distract the guards." "That could work," Admiral G said thoughtfully. "But we'll need more than a distraction." "I can fight," Dai said, standing taller. "I've trained in combat since I was young." "I'm fast," Sumi added. "I can reach places others can't." Professor Ta nodded. "And I still remember my military training." They quickly formed a plan. Hoon would disguise himself as the domain commander to distract the guards. Dai and Professor Ta would subdue them, while Sumi would help Jia reach the power core controls. "What about you, Admiral?" Jia asked. Admiral G pulled out a small device. "Once your signal disrupts their communications, I can call for Alliance backup. I'll need to reach the roof." They moved through the maintenance tunnels until they reached a junction near the power core. Through a small window, they could see 4 domain guards standing at the entrance. "Ready?" Jia asked. The others nodded. Hoon closed his eyes, concentrating. His features began to shift and change until he looked exactly like the domain commander they had captured. "How do I look?" he asked in the commander's voice. "Terrifying," Sumit said with a small smile. Hoon straightened his uniform and walked out confidently toward the guards. They immediately stood at attention. "Report," he barked. While the guards were distracted, Dai and Professor Ta circled around through another entrance. On Hoon's signal, a simple hand gesture, they attacked from behind. The struggle was brief but intense. Within moments, all 4 guards were unconscious. Jia and Sumi rushed to the power core controls. The massive cylinder of pulsing energy illuminated their faces with blue light. "Keep watch," Jia told Sumi. "This will take a few minutes." Her hands moved across the complex controls with practiced ease. This was what she was born to do, seeing patterns in numbers that others missed. "How did you discover the flaw in their shields?" Sumi asked quietly as she watched the door. "I just saw it," Jia replied, "still working. Where others saw complicated equations, I saw a pattern with a missing piece, like a song with a wrong note." On the monitors, they could see the domain forces in the main hall, still holding students hostage. The fake Professor Ta was pacing angrily, speaking into a communication device. "Almost ready," Jia said. "When I activate this, all domain technology will shut down for about 5 minutes. That's our window to free the hostages." Suddenly, an alarm blared. A voice announced, "Intruder alert at the power core. All available forces respond immediately." "They've discovered us," Shun cried. Jia worked faster. "Just need another minute." The door burst open. Domain soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. "Step away from the controls," one shouted. Da and Professor Ta moved to protect Jia, but they were outnumbered. "Now Jia," Admiral J called from the upper level where he was fighting off more soldiers. Jia slammed her hand down on the final control. The power core pulsed brightly, then emitted a high-pitched sound that made everyone cover their ears. All around them, domain weapons suddenly powered down. Their communication devices sparked and went silent. "It worked," Sumi shouted. But the domain soldiers weren't defeated yet. One large soldier tackled Jia, pinning her to the ground. "You've ruined us twice now, human," he growled. "Not again." His hands wrapped around her throat. Jia struggled against the domain soldier's grip on her throat. Black spots danced in her vision as she fought for air. Suddenly, the weight was lifted off her. Da had tackled the soldier, sending them both rolling across the floor. "Get away from her," Dai shouted, landing punch after punch. The soldier threw Dai off and rose to his feet. Without his weapons, he pulled out a simple knife. "I don't need technology to kill a human," he growled. As he lunged toward Jia, Shuma slid between them. She grabbed a piece of broken equipment and swung it hard, hitting the soldier's hand. The knife clattered to the floor. More domain soldiers poured into the room. Hoon, still in his commander disguise, shouted orders that confused them momentarily. Professor Tai used the confusion to take down 2 soldiers with quick, precise strikes. "Jia," Admiral J called from above. "The frequency is weakening. Can you make it stronger?" Jia scrambled back to the controls. "I need to reroute more power," she shouted. Her fingers flew across the panel. The power core pulsed brighter, the frequency growing louder. All around the academy, domain technology not only shut down but began to break apart. Their ships hovering outside the school lost power and drifted away. "The hostages," Shumi reminded them. "Go," Jia ordered. "I'll keep the frequency going." Da, Suma, and Hoon raced toward the main hall. Professor Ta stayed to protect Jia, while Admiral G made his way to the roof to signal Alliance forces. In the main hall, The fake Professor Ta was panicking as her weapons and communication devices failed. The students, sensing weakness, were beginning to resist. When Da, Suma, and Hoon burst through the doors, the students cheered. Together, they overpowered the remaining domain agents. Back at the power core, Jia monitored the energy levels carefully. "It's becoming unstable," she told Professor Ta. "If I push it any harder, it might explode." "How long until Alliance forces arrive?" Professor Ta asked. 10 minutes, maybe less," Jia replied. "But I don't know if we have that long." The core began to shake, panels sparking around them. "We need to evacuate," Professor Ta decided. "Come on." "Not yet," Jia said firmly. "If the frequency stops too soon, the domain ships could recover. Everyone would be in danger again." Professor Ta looked at the determined young human with new respect. "Then I'm staying too." On the roof, Admiral G finally made contact with Alliance ships. "Emergency at Celestial Academy. Domain infiltration. We need immediate assistance." "Copy that, Admiral," came the response. "Ships deployed. ETA 7 minutes." In the main hall, the students had tied up all the domain agents. Day stood on a table. "Everyone needs to evacuate now," he shouted. "The power core is becoming unstable." As students rushed out in orderly lines, Day turned to Suma and Hoon. "Where's Jia?" "Still at the power core," Hoon realized. "She's keeping the frequency going." The three friends looked at each other, then ran back toward the power core. They found Jia still at the controls, sweat beading on her forehead as she worked to contain the growing instability. "Jia, we need to go," Suma pleaded. "Just one more minute," Jia insisted. "The Alliance ships are almost here." The room shook violently. Pieces of ceiling began to fall. "No more time," Daz said firmly. He picked Jia up, pulling her away from the controls. "Put me down," she protested. "Friends don't let friends get blown up," he replied with a small smile. They ran through the corridors as the power core's rumbling grew louder. They reached the outside just as Alliance ships appeared in the sky above. A massive pulse of energy shot out from the Academy, making the air shimmer. Then silence. The Alliance ships landed, soldiers rushing out to secure the area. Admiral J approached them, grinning broadly. "Well done, all of you," he said. "The domain forces have been captured. The Academy is safe." In the days that followed, classes were suspended while repairs began. Jia's true identity became known to everyone. Instead of mockery, she now received respect and even admiration from her classmates. One evening, Jia sat on a bench outside the partially repaired academy. Dae, Suma, and Hoon joined her. "So," Dae said awkwardly, "I've been thinking about what I said about humans being primitive." "And?" Jia asked with a small smile. "I was an idiot," he admitted. "Species doesn't determine worth. Actions do." Shumi nodded. "We all learned that lesson." "What happens now?" Hoon asked. "Will you stay at the academy?" Jia looked up at the stars. "Yes," she said finally. "My place is here, with my friends." Admiral Jia approached their group. "Jia, the Alliance Council wants to honor you publicly for your actions." Jia shook her head. "No need for that. I'm just a student now." "A student who saved everyone," Dae reminded her. As they sat together watching the sunset, Jia felt truly at peace for the first time in years. She was no longer hiding. No longer the calculator who brought down an empire. No longer the human girl enduring mockery. She was just Jia, a student at Celestial Academy, with friends who accepted her for exactly who she was.